No safe takes, no soft landings.
In any instance where it is proven that this accusation is false, should be definitely convicted for false accusation.
Only sharp minds and very, very strong stakes.
If we prosecute false accusers, 95% of rapists will go scot-free. That is for the court. Why you
For
here?
the court, the same court that comes out to say real victims are not victims, that there was no rape.
So do you believe the court does not know the law?
I shall be submitting the opinion that false accusers of rape should not be prosecuted.
If your logic is weak, it fails. If it's solid, it stands.
The issue before us is a tricky one. A lot of people are suffering in silence. They cannot speak. You have been raped. What did you wear? Why did you go out late at night? Why were you there at that point in time? Why didn't you run? Why didn't you scream? Why were you there? Do you know how many people cannot live their lives normally, come out in this society because their lives have been ruined?
Do you know how many people's lives will be ruined more and more?
Are we supposed to go to their houses and say, okay, please, so you've been raped, or please come out?
This is court of law. Today, I have graduates of public universities on my left-hand side arguing for, and I have graduates of private universities arguing against. The topic is simple. Should false accusers of rape be prosecuted? Public university graduates go for, private university graduates go against. Let's begin. Speakers, proceed.
The wars of false rape accusation predate many modern civilization, and this has been well noted by the Holy Book of the Christians and the popular story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. However, the consequences of false rape accusation are far more damning than present times. They threaten lives, destinies, and can even derail generations. What then does the law say about false rape accusation in today's world? Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Amike Precious, and I represent the public institution in today's debate, and I'm here to make an affirmative case that false accusers of rape should indeed be prosecuted. My argument rests in two major premises. First, the grave effects of false rape accusation, and second, the perversion of justice and the wastage of scarce state resources. However, before proceeding to the substance of our case, I would like to provide a brief contextual background for today's debates. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand the case on the other side, and as such, we say that pursuant to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, the VAP Act, that rape has now been refined to include men. Today's conversation is not a gender war. Also, let us bear in mind that the right to fair hearing is guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution, and this means that there is a presumption of innocence for everyone. And the fact that the accusation is about rape does not mean that this will evaporate. It is in light of this context that we frame our debates. So panelists, ladies and gentlemen, we proceed to the first key issue, the grave consequences of false rape accusation. Many lives and destinies have been destroyed. Well, and it saddens me to say that many more will continue to fall if we do not do anything. Benjamin Mendy of Manchester City is a far example. We have other people who are close by to us in Nigeria. I will refrain from mentioning names, but we do know the popular story or the tragic story of a man or of a boy who committed suicide because of false rape accusation. It trended on Twitter We all shared, we retreated. But what ended it? Families filled with tragedy and not being able to have closure. This is only a tip of the iceberg of what false rape accusation can do to families and what it can eventually do to generations, terminating this even before it has started. I know the argument in the other side is that what then happens to real rape victims who are then afraid to comfort because of the chilling effects of prosecuting false accusers of rape. And we say that the solution to one illness or to the solution to one anomaly is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We understand that rape exists, but we also understand that the false accusation of rape is an anomaly in our society. And as such, what we say is that false accusation of rape is a perversion of justice and even a wastage of scarce state resources. And this leads me to my second point. When we talk about false accusation of rape, we deny people the very fundamental principle of fair hearing. When we turn back to section 36 of the 1999 Constitution, it tells you that, oh, you are presumed innocent. Hell, before you can even step into a court. But today, we will avert our mind back to what has worked. It has worked in Botswana, and it will work in Nigeria. I will refer everyone here today to the Botswana Penal Code. Section 168B of the Penal Code has been amended to account for the false accusation of rape. Simply put, we are not talking about mere flippant prosecution. We're talking about deliberate fabrication of evidence and material which is made to put the other person in bad light. Emphasis on deliberate. What Botswana did was to create an asterisk reus and a menswear in, simply put, in criminal jurisprudence to say that for you to say that someone can be prosecuted for false accusation of rape, then the person must indeed have met the twin elements of a criminal prosecution. And we say that what has happened in Botswana can indeed be replicated in Nigeria. Like Joseph, we fled from Potiphar's wife, spent years in prison. Many more will flee and will spend years in prison. But today, some people's destiny will be terminated and they will never recover. And you know what that means? It means that numerous generations will die yet unborn. Thank you.
Private universities speak against the prosecution of false accusers of rape.
Let me make this clear. We, the opposition, do not defend dishonesty. Neither do we attempt to defend dishonesty. I want you to understand that we know that the law cannot be silenced and the law cannot afford restraints. But the question now is, should criminal prosecution be the necessary, appropriate, and justifiable course of action? My name is Elizabeth Munero, and I'm representing the private institution this evening. And the opposition, our motion this evening is that should false accusers of rape be prosecuted? Now, this motion asks a very direct question, but let's examine it from this perspective. The Criminal Code Act, as well as the Criminal Law of Lagos State, already makes provision for intentional falsehoods. What do I mean? Section 117 criminalizes perjury. Section 120 criminalizes fabrication of evidence. Section 125 criminalizes conspiracy to bring false accusation. And Section 125A equally criminalizes making a false statement to a public officer with intent. So what does this mean? It means that intentional falsehoods have been criminalized already under the law. And so why should we single out false accusers of rape for another special kind of punishment? It makes no sense to me. Prosecuting the false accusers of rape, like you mentioned rightly, would produce a chilling effect. The majority is that we have more rape victims than we have false accusers. And the law protects who? The majority, not the minority. Especially prosecuting false accusers of rape would create unintended consequences. And what would that do? It would threaten the justice system that we currently have available. It will neither protect the victim of the false accusation, neither will it protect the victims of rape. And what is the stand of the opposition on this? We say that false accusers of rape should not be singled out for any special kind of punishment, since the law already creates punishment for false accusations. Do we have special punishment for false accusers of murder? No. So why should we create special punishment for false accusers of rape? Also, the victims of false accusations already have criminal and civil avenues for recourse. 1, criminal avenues, they have perjury. 2, they have the fabrication of evidence and all of that. In terms of civil, they have defamation, they have malicious prosecution. So why do we place focus on false accusers of rape and say, oh, they must be punished, because false accusation of rape affects the reputation of these people? We do not dismiss the pain of false accusers of rape. We know that they suffer psychological trauma. We know that they suffer reputational harm. But what are we saying? We are saying that it is best that the false accusers of rape be punished under the existing law rather than being singled out categorically for punishment when there's already an existing law that protects them. We are not saying that they should be immune to punishment. Rather, we say what? We say that they should be punished under the existing law. We recognize that rape cases do not just begin in courtrooms. They begin in fear. Fear of speaking out. Fear of relieving your pain in public. And so what is our stand? We, the opposition, we say that the appropriate course of action or the appropriate approach would be to use the existing legal course of action available. However, before I conclude, I would like us to define who a false accuser is. A false accuser is someone who deliberately and knowingly makes an allegation of rape, knowing it to be untrue, not someone who, or not a complainant whose previous case of rape was discharged and acquitted. As such, the criminal law already makes provision for false accusations, and there's no reason why the false accusers of rape should be singled out for punishment. Thank you.
Lead speaker, step back. Rebuttals.
Ladies and gentlemen, our friends from the other side have just said that false accusers of rape should not be singled out, given the fact that we have existing laws already. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind us that justice must not be a one-way street. Justice must not be a one-way street in the sense that the law cannot be used as a shield from malice. This will be against the very purpose of the law, which is to act as the balance for truth. If we allow false accusers of rape to just go scot-free, then we are using the law to destroy the very life of citizens that the law is meant to protect. Ladies and gentlemen, the criminal justice of our country also recognizes that a lie told to the state is a crime against the state. In fact, if you were to lie under oath before a court of law, you are guilty of perjury under Section 117 of the Criminal Code Act. Ladies and gentlemen, if you falsely accuse someone of rape before a court of law, you are guilty of malicious prosecution. As now, you have now used the law negatively. You have weaponized the law against an innocent citizen. We can see this in the case of Ogbono versus Ogbono. a case that was decided in 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, let us paint our minds to a father of 2 lovely children whose only crime was being the fact that he wanted to divorce his wife. And as a result of this, his wife accused him of rape and sexual abuse of these 2 lovely children whom he loved so dearly. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see how easy it is for a lie to be so conveniently used. And yet, our friends from the other side is saying that false accusers of rape should not be singled out just because we have existing provisions. We beg to differ. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind us of the story of Dr. Femi, a doctor who spent his life saving lives across the country, only to have his life systematically destroyed by the reason of a false accusation of rape. It took 3 years for his name to be cleared. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 3 years of his name being dragged in the mud, of his reputation being torn apart. One thing that we can see that is common amongst these 2 cases is the court of public opinion. Our social media platform, X, for instance, formerly known as Twitter, is now a perfect platform for the modern-day justice, a modern-day version of the jungle justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, we submit on our rebuttals that justice must serve both sides. And as such, we rest on our case that the principle of hodeo rem patem states that both sides must be heard.
Private universities, rebuttal.
Justice is not a one-way traffic. Actually, it's not a two-way traffic, as you've alleged. It's actually a 3-way traffic, as stated by the late Justice Oputa in the case of Josiah and the state. But the point is this: if we are claiming justice for the rape offenders, why not also look at the part of the state and also the rape victim? Because according to the National Bureau of Statistics, we're talking about 1.4 million Nigerians within 2023 to 2024. They went through the sexual offenses of rape. But out of all of these numbers, these cumbersome numbers, only 22.7% came out to the law enforcement agency to even come forward to allege that there was actually a rape. And out of this same 22.7%, the court only adjudged only 3.3% as rape. It is very important for us to establish here that to establish rape, penetration is very key. It is a key ingredient as established in Section 6 of the Criminal Code Act and also Section 1 of the VAP Act, which you also established. Now, you've gone on, you guys have been going on, the opposing side have been going on and on. The truth is this: in all reality, to establish rape in the present Nigerian jurisprudence, it is very cumbersome. It is factual that the offense of rape is under-recorded. And you arguing it's unfair, it's unequitable, it's beyond reasonable sense or good natural justice that there should be further criminalization of the of false accusation of rape. Basically, what we should be doing is how to encourage victims of rape to come forward, not to compound or incubate them with more laws to restrict them or create a chilling effect that will make them or debar them from coming forward. Now, the point is this. A rape victim is already at a point of disadvantage. First and foremost, psychologically, he is traumatized. He or she is traumatized. Secondly, societal-wise, if you come out with the offense of rape, let's take what happened 2 weeks ago or some days ago on Twitter, where 2 ladies came out to say, oh, they were victims of rape. The society were already bashing them. You knew that those people, why didn't you do your due diligence? Why didn't you do that? So basically, there's already ostracization for them. The society is already blackmailing them. And physically, their body has went through what is unheard of, like what it is not conditioned to do. And legally, according to Section 6 of the Criminal Code Act and Section 1 of VAP Act, penetration is principal. And to establish the offense, to establish the fact or the ingredient of penetration is very, very, very hard.
Thank you. Rebuttal. Rebuttals. Emphasize your argument. Emphasize your argument. Elevate the argument.
Ladies and gentlemen, the other side has made seemingly compelling arguments that false accusers of rape should not be prosecuted. But these arguments are based on the idea that it's only the rape victim that suffers trauma, and that just because false accusers are going to be prosecuted, the real victims will not stand up. But I beg to differ. We forget that those that are falsely accused are also victims. To say that we should not prosecute those who falsely accuse others of rape is to say that we should create a hierarchy of victims' rights where the rape victims' rights takes precedence over the accused victims' rights. Now, they also mentioned trauma and other things like that. This person that is falsely accused also experiences trauma. Of course, not on the same level, but still in its own way. Their lives are stripped off from them. They have their lives broken down in 1 single minute. And on top of that, social media already judges them before they get to court. Now, we're saying that to bring these false accusers to court will bring about a breakdown of justice, will make real victims of rape to not come to court. But that's not true.
Good day, everyone. My name is Fafemi Fidal. I'm standing on all existing protocols.
I shall be submitting the opinion that false accusers of rape should not be prosecuted on behalf of private universities. Mr. Hay was robbed yesterday. The burglars broke in with weapons and they stole 25 million naira. The next morning, Mr. Hay drives his car to the police station. He's 5 steps away from the gate. He wants to report the crime. However, he remembers that last year, his neighbor, he pointed to a suspect for murder. The court decided that the suspect was not truly the one who committed the murder, and after that, his neighbor was imprisoned for false accusation. Mr. A decides not to report. He goes back to his house. However, the armed robbers, they strike again the next day, and this time their victims are not so lucky, they lose their lives. Now, you might ask yourself, what does this have to do with rape? Do we truly believe that after false accusation of rape has been criminalized, it will end there? Do we not believe that false accusations for murder, false accusations for corruption will also attract some kind of penalty, or that at least the society will clamor for it to attract some kind of penalty? After all, the punishment for armed robbery is execution. Should it not then be reasonable that people will clamor for a crime that has such heavy a punishment? False accusation of a crime needs to be criminalized. We have to remember that the tool of perpetrators is fear. Once victims become afraid to report, we have used the law to put a weapon in the hands of perpetrators in order for them to run lawless around. We have created a Gotham kind of situation in Nigeria. Now, I would like to close with this. We need to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to live in a society where a few hundred are falsely accused? Or a society where thousands of victims are scared to speak up every day? It is a very painful reality. Yes, and both sides, they do not come out unscathed. Victims emerge from both sides. However, it is a question that we need to answer in order to decide the type of society that we want to live in. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Hello, everyone. I think that it is very important to establish that I don't think that the opposing party understands who a false accusator is. What we are saying is that we're not trying to adjudicate that anyone who cannot prove rape should be tagged as a false accusator. We are trying to establish that in any instance where it is proven that this accusation is false, then such a person should be definitely convicted for false accusation. Because as a law student, I genuinely believe that the aim of the law is to protect whoever suffers damage. And it is very illogical to now proceed that anyone who is accused of, anyone who is a victim of rape should automatically get away with because they were traumatized, not to downgrade the trauma that they went through, definitely. But I also genuinely believe that anyone who has been accused of rape deserves as much damage, as experienced as much damage as such person who has undergone rape. The opposition party raised an example of a few weeks ago and explained that before she came out, now that she's out, everybody is literally fighting for this person because we understand how delicate the accusation of rape is. I put it to you that in the instance where false accusers are not convicted, it will give persons who do not support rape an ammunition, because if today there is an accused of rape and it is false, tomorrow it is false, the next tomorrow it is false, what then are we fighting for? But so we are positing that it would increase the credibility of the justice system if false accusers are actually convicted, because to what shame and mockery would it be to the justice system if you can come and swear on an oath that such person raped you? Right? So we are positing that in any instance where false accusation of rape has been proven by substantial evidence, such person should be convicted. And this conviction and damage should be commensurate to the, so now we're not saying that in an instance of rape should be murder, right? The damage should be commensurate to what was done. So we are trying to say that, okay, sorry, no, yeah. Standing on existing protocols, you mentioned the word that our standpoint is illogical. It's a very brave statement to make. I want you to understand something. The issue before us is a tricky one. It's a dicey one because both parties are indeed victims. But think of the greater good, the majority of the people. We have mentioned stats, and I'll repeat again. 2 to 8% of rape accusations are actually false. Majority, that means majority of accusations that we've not even heard of have not been brought to the police station. If we prosecute false accusers, 95% of rapists will go scot-free. And those 95% will increase to 99%. What is the essence of a state that cannot prioritize the greater good of its people? What is the essence of a state that cannot use its resources to safeguard the rights of its people? I want you to understand that the ripple effect of your standpoint is disastrous to the society at large. A lot of people are suffering in silence. They cannot speak. You have been raped. What did you wear? Why did you go out late at night? Why were you there at that point in time? Why didn't you run? Why didn't you scream? Why were you there? These questions are plaguing the minds of victims. They are scared to speak. They die with this pain. Majority of them never recover from it. So we're not talking about the fact that false accusers do not go through a lot. We accept that. However, majority of the people that are suffering in silence are not the false accusers. They are the victims. The people that were the scapegoats for this rapist. So we push and we submit that we stand for the point that these false accusers should not be prosecuted. There are other methods of remedies. Criminal prosecution is not a necessity.
Thank you very much.
Should false accusers of rape be prosecuted? Arguing for. Should false accusers of rape be prosecuted? Arguing against. Closing statements.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that our premise is should false accusers be prosecuted. On that note, we are saying yes, they should be prosecuted, which is why we are defending that there is no greater good, because under the concept of rule of law, there is equality before the law. There is no greater good. Even if one person is to be in prison falsely, then it doesn't matter if 100 people would, or by that case, still be in prison falsely. The one person, there's no special person before the law. Number two, false accusers, we're not talking about the victims. We're not talking about rape victims. We're not invalidating them. We're talking about the false accusers of victims. And in that case, that means the person who was accused of rape is also a victim. Are you saying one victim is better than another victim? That is not possible. Under the law, both of them are equal. And as so, the one who is a victim should have justice. Then thirdly, as it has been said, a new law. We are not clamoring for a new law. We are saying the laws that have already been established should be taken into consideration. When somebody is falsely accused of rape, then that person that's falsely accused should face the consequences of falsely accusing somebody. And in that case, where they brought out statistics, we're not talking about all that. When you have already prosecuted the people who falsely accuse rape, then other people would not come out to accuse rape falsely. Other people will not come out to accuse rape falsely. When other people do not come out to accuse rape falsely, then the people that have actually been raped will get justice. Do not let our judicial system be cumbersome with false accusations. Let's get that out of the system. We do not want false accusation. Do not be liars. The law will judge liars. Thank you.
This is not X. This is not Instagram. Neither is it any social media. This is the court of law. We talk with statistics, fact, logic, and law. Justice Oputa says justice is a three-way traffic. For the society, the victim, and the accused. The society in this context are real victims that would be affected by the criminalization of false accusation as an act. Why are we creating criminal liabilities for false accusers of rape when, in the real sense, there are remedies already available? The problem of Nigeria is not laws, my dear friends. It's enforcement of laws. Let's focus on enforcing present and existing laws rather than creating more laws that would suffer more enforcement and also create a damaging effect of affecting future real victims. Thank you very much. That's our stance.
I would like to state that I in no place mentioned that there should be new laws. I am saying the already established laws should be acted upon. Yes, and you are agreeing with my point. You are actually defending our motion. We said the people should be prosecuted. You are saying there's already a law for prosecution. Then prosecute them. They are liars. Prosecute them now. Prosecute them. That's what we are saying. If you lie, the law will not defend you. Why are you coming to the law to defend you? Oh, the law should not prosecute people who lie. The law should not, so that people who have been raped should not come, should be able to come before. The people that have been raped, if they say that they're prosecuting false people, do you know how many people's lives have been ruined? Do you know how many people cannot live their lives normally, come out in this society because their lives have been ruined?
Do you know how many people's life will be ruined more and more with false criminal liability for false accusation? That is the point here. This criminal responsibility, criminal liability, criminal prosecution affects real victims that would no longer have the mind in our country, Nigeria, where the person that is going to judge, the court that would judge the case is still the same court that would still be sentenced to, the judgment will still be subject to appeals. Appeals upon appeals. Appeals upon appeals. False today, in court of appeal, not false. Supreme Court, not false. Affect real victims out there.
Who is is the fake victim?
detrimental effect
Who is the
of
fake
real
victim?
victims
Who is the fake victim?
that have suffered
If you falsely accuse me
from
of rape, am I a
rape?
fake victim?
That is
I'm a real
our
victim
standpoint.
too now.
Thank you
Real
very
victim
much.
are real victims. If you falsely accuse me of rape, I am also a real victim. Don't come and say real victim like there's a grade to victim.
Statistics
victim A,
have been
victim
given.
B. What are the statistics that are given? Then there are also people that have been lied
There
against
is
now.
a constant underreporting already in Nigeria of the case of rape.
So don't forget
You
the
come out
equity
today
margin
and
that
say
says
this is
equity
false
aids the
accusation.
vigilance. Equity aids the vigilance and not the indolence. If you say people do not come out, are we supposed to go to their houses and say, okay, please, so you've been raped, or please come out? We're talking about the people that have already come out and lie. Please, let's stay on point. Don't leave the points that we've established. Why you say people will not come out to say that they've been raped? Should we go to their houses? Should we do door-to-door endorsements? If you've been raped, come outside, though. No, now.
Circus populi supreme lex. The essence of the law is for the welfare of the community.
Thank you. If you lie against me, that means the
Therefore,
essence of the law has come against my own welfare.
the community in question is the majority. The majority in this context are the people that will be affected to come out to report the case of rape due to the fact that there is the fear of if I come out, they will tell me it is false accusation. Who proves who adjudged that this is false accusation?
That is
Can you
for the
answer?
court. Why are you
For
yet?
the court,
Why you
the same
yet
court, the
Don't-
same
do not
court
be bothered.
that
We're talking
comes
about
out
people
to
that we
say
know that
real
are already
victims
falsely
are
accused.
not victims, that there was no rape. Rape on itself.
So do you believe the
rape
court
in
does not know
itself,
the law?
Rape,
Do you believe that the court does not
the
know the
court
law?
knows the law.
So why are you saying that the same court that says that people that have been raped said that they have not been raped?
Do you believe in the court system?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand the hierarchy of courts?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that the decision in a trial court can be different from that of the appeal court?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that the decision of the trial court can affect the public?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that the decision of the court of appeal can change that of the trial court?
Yes, I do.
So if the decision of the trial court, which can be wrong, based on lack of evidence, because rape on itself is hard to prove, right? So if it is false and can change in the High Court of Appeal, and then the society that you claim to be the judges so far with what you just said, have already made the assumption that this is a false accuser. Do you believe that that society, that judgment can affect other victims to come out, real victims at this point, to come out to say they have been raped? Yes or no? Yes or no? Then I think you don't understand the topic. The topic here, what we are standing for here now is criminal liability for false accusers affects or causes chilling effects, brings up a big detriment onto real victims out there that are already shivering and don't know how to come out to report their case. That is our standpoint. Thank you.
Persons that have been falsely accused of rape are also victims and they deserve justice. That's your point. Prosecuting people perceived to be false accusers or false accusers of rape will stop the real victims of rape from stepping forward to get justice. This is not left to us to decide. Society decides that.